Hey guys, I'm Matt.
I'm Josh, and this is Vino Veritas. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of our new series, Vino Veritas, where in wine there is truth. We are your hosts, Josh and Matt, and today, Matt, go ahead and tell them about the wine we're going to be drinking today.
All right, so we have a delicious wine out of California called Exit 43. All right, zoom in on that. It's actually a pretty cool looking label. I like how they did that.
Yeah, it is.
How they did that.
Yeah.
It's made by Keith Hawk. This is from 2015. It's a sparkling wine, and he actually created this wine to thank the. Let's see. He said, "I'll just read straight from it because I couldn't put it any better." It says, "Exit 43 is a tribute to the day I began pursuing my dream, making my own wines. I've crafted this wine to celebrate and thank you to all the NakedWine.com angels that made this partnership possible." So, I don't know if you guys have heard of it yet, but Naked Wines is awesome. Okay, they send you literally a monster box.
Man.
Like it's like 8 to 10 different wines. I think it's somewhere around $40 or $50 a month.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and if
That's
you don't,
not bad.
and if you don't order wines that month, it just goes into like your bank.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I've got like $200 worth of wine
Really?
that I could purchase, but I
Really?
haven't yet because I'm still working on this monster box.
Yeah,
of
he has a
wine.
ton of wine, guys.
So-
By the way, and by the way, we're not being sponsored by them in any way to
At
give
all.
them a shout out. That's
I just
genuine
think it's
shout
awesome.
out. They're awesome.
So
So if you guys remember last week, I put up a Facebook status. It was titled "Calling All Thinkers," and it was a big green post. And I asked you guys to give me one question that you've always wanted answered. And we actually got a few questions from one person. So this first episode is going to be all for this person. His name is Jeff Hurst. He's a friend of both of ours. And he gave us several questions, and they're all wonderful questions that he wanted answered. And so I think this whole episode should be dedicated to just answering those questions because they were really great. And Jeff, we'll be sure to tag you in this video. But the first one he wanted to know, Matt, he was talking about success.
okay.
And he wanted to know what are the most important factors in achieving success.
Well, I would say that the first thing you have to do going forward in anything is you have to define what your
Right.
goal, what your level of success looks like.
So you have to define success in general
as a whole
first.
for yourself,
Right.
because it's different for every person. My level of success might be different than yours. I might be looking for a level of fulfillment that you have either already achieved in your life personally,
Yeah.
financially, or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have to actively define what success looks like for you as a person.
And I think for me individually, success for me means living life on my own terms.
Okay.
Living life how I want to live it, whether that's financial freedom or what. When I live life on my own terms, that is when I know I'm successful, right? When I can go through day to day and I know that everything that's happening in my life was intentional, right?
Okay.
But I think everyone has a different idea of success. Like, what would your idea of success be for that?
Well, I measure success for myself in small, manageable goals. So my day-to-day life, when I wake up in the morning, whether it's really in the forefront of my mind or it's just subconsciously, I set a manageable, obtainable goal for that day. Okay, so, and we've had a conversation about
Yeah.
this before.
Yeah.
My short-term goal is to get to a place in my life financially where I can afford to only buy button-down shirts that have cufflinks. Because
I remember you telling me about that.
I think it looks really classy.
It does.
I think it's
Yeah.
really...
Yeah.
And when you see a guy walking around and he's got cufflinks, like, that's...
It's a classy guy. You're like, okay, yeah, he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. He's successful in his own field.
I think in my entire life I've had maybe one shirt that has required cufflinks. Now, granted, I did buy cufflinks. I still have them sitting around. I haven't worn those since like my freshman year when I went to prom or something like that. It's been forever.
I've owned cufflinks. I've never had a shirt that took cufflinks.
Oh, there you go. So both of us have a goal to achieve there.
Yeah, you need to put them back on, and I need to buy a shirt.
Yeah. And so, but that's a good example. That is, that's an achievable goal. And Matt, you and I were talking about this. I brought up the example of New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching, I've probably had this conversation with a lot of you. I talk about this all the time. People make New Year's resolutions, and I think the one thing we know about those is that 80% of them fail, right?
Yeah.
80% of people that make resolutions are failures. And the reason I think, and this is just my opinion, but the reason I think that these resolutions fail is that they don't put their goals to a measurable extent. So you have people out there who say, I want to lose weight, or I want to make more money, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they go to the gym the first 2 weeks, they lose like 2 pounds, and they're like, okay, I lost weight, whatever, and they give up.
Yeah.
You know, so if you don't set a goal for yourself, I think goal setting is a really important part of it.
Yeah,
Just
so-
achievable goals.
So not only goals, but also what you were saying is they don't put a number to it. They don't quantify it. But at the same time, I think that having a partner in your goals.
Mm-hmm.
So having someone that you're accountable to.
Like an accountability partner, yeah.
So if I say I want to lose 10 pounds in the gym, I don't need to lose 10 pounds, but for the sake of argument, let's say that I say I want to lose 10 pounds. I put a single number to that. I didn't give myself a time frame. I didn't give myself...
You gave yourself a goal, a hard goal.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So I think for some people, and it goes back to kind of defining who you are as a person or what you need to do as a person. So for me losing 10 pounds, that could take a week.
Right.
Okay? And then it depends on what you do from that point. If you're in the back of your head, you say, I actually need to lose 50 pounds, but I think 10 is an achievable goal.
Then you're...
Okay? So you get to 10.
Yeah.
And then what do you do after that? Do you just quit? Do you just stop?
I think most people do.
Exactly.
I think most people do.
Or do you have someone that you know, someone that you care about and that cares about you, sitting there telling you, okay, well, your original goal was 50.
Yeah.
And you made it to 10. Let's do another 10.
Right.
Okay.
And I think you brought in another interesting theme that I want to hit on, and I don't think you even meant to, but complacency.
Yep.
You know, I think complacency, and I've talked about this with people with relationships before. You know, complacency will kill a relationship. It'll kill your goals. Yeah.
We've had this conversation.
When you start getting comfortable with something, you start failing. You know, so I'm going to put it in the terms of a relationship. And I'm going to give you a quote here. Like, I'm telling you, man, this needs to be on like this needs to be on Brainy Quote, okay? My goal for everyone watching, put this on Brainy Quote. I don't know how you do that, but quote me on this. When it comes to a relationship, if you act like you did at the beginning of the relationship, at the end of the relationship, there will be no end of the relationship, right? And I want you to think about that. Think about how people act at the beginning of a relationship. They're all giddy. You know, you do anything for her and she'd do anything for you. You're going out of each other's way to surprise each other and do sweet lovey-dovey kind of honeymoon phase stuff.
Well, because you're trying to impress people.
Right.
You're
so
trying to
think
impress
about,
them.
though, if you kept that mentality throughout the entirety of a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
If every day you woke up with the mindset of, what can I do to light that girl up? What can I do to make her smile? What can I do to keep her happy? There would never be an end of the relationship, because selfishness and complacency is what kills good things. Now, we take that mentality and we apply it to business, right?
Okay.
When you're first getting into a new business, you know, you're driven. You're all about that hustle, that drive mentality that you and I talk about a lot. And you're just going out there, you're crushing it left and right. But then as soon as you get your first bit of money, you go and blow it and you forget all about your business. You know, because you get complacent. You think, oh, I made it.
Yep.
The truth is, man, you know, if you ever look at yourself in the mirror and think, I made it, you're wrong and you're going to fail.
Yep.
If there ever comes a day where you say you made it, I can tell you right now, and I'm sure he can tell you too, you're failing. You know, the thing that sets successful people apart from ordinary people is successful people don't lose the urge to keep driving, to keep grinding. They're always looking for the next big thing, the next opportunity.
They continue to set more goals.
Yeah.
So once they've achieved that initial goal set that they have for themselves, they make another goal.
Yeah.
They make another goal.
They're constantly putting things out there.
And that's where that's where the entrepreneur mindset is different than the average day person mindset.
Yeah.
So you have the average person will work 20 years in a job that they despise.
Yeah, for people they despise.
For people that they despise. And just look at guys in the military, just to take a snapshot, okay? This is the easiest way that I can explain it to anybody. Take a average person in the military, okay? There are people in the military that will stay in the military for 20 years because they feel like they have no other options.
It's true.
Okay? And some of the people that are in the military have the highest IQ out of the rated
Yeah.
United States.
They're
Out of
intelligent people. They just don't
very,
think they
very
have anything
intelligent
going
people.
for them.
And part of that is like their surroundings. Okay,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I told you the other day when we were making that movie is be the kind of person that produces their environment.
I love it.
Not a production of your environment.
Brainy quote, guys.
If you were
Matt Lunceford, produce your environment. Don't be a product of your environment. Quote that. Brainy quote. I want to see it.
So I took that from a rendition of something that the late great oh man, I can't. He was just in the news for some terrible
Really?
things.
It's going to hit you at like 2 a.m. and you're
Yeah,
going to call
I'm
me and
gonna
be like, man, I remembered his name.
Anyway, one of these guys that I've listened to for a long time. He did stand-up comedy for a long time. He's been on TV. I can't remember for the life of me his name right now. But he said that anybody can change their environment. If you don't like what's happening to you, you don't like where you are in life, you have the ability, whether you believe it or not, to change your environment, to change who you are as a person in order to overcome the obstacles that you've been given in life. So it doesn't matter. Like for me, I grew up in a very, very poor household. Okay, my parents worked their asses off.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't enough. There was 6 kids in my family, and there was just too much of a financial burden, and my parents didn't have the knowledge or the ability to change their circumstances.
Right.
Okay? So my dad was active duty military, my mom was active duty military, and then my dad got out of the military and started working at AutoZone. He did really well at AutoZone. He was a regional manager, but the skill set that he spent so long defining and honing didn't transfer to civilian life. And that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now.
Sure. And I think a lot of military personnel are, whether you're active duty or you're a newly acclaimed veteran, going out there and producing an income and trying to develop that civilian mindset. I think that's a problem that a lot of soldiers face.
I think it's a problem for a lot of people in general.
Yeah.
Because think about it, you spend 4 or more years in college learning a specific thing.
Right.
Learning that A plus B equals C, right? And then you get into the real world and
it's completely backwards. Yeah.
It's
nothing applies.
Yeah, it's C plus B equals A
minus D, and you're
right?
like, what? Yeah.
So you get thrown off because people like textbook and like book knowledge is not the same as real world street smarts, real world knowledge.
Right.
Contextual knowledge.
I completely agree. 100%.
So, and anybody that has studied anything and then gotten into that field of doing that can tell you the exact same thing. Learning it versus doing it are 2 completely different things. You learn contextual knowledge that you never could get out of a book.
Yeah, and so one of Jeff Hurst's other questions that he gave us, and I think we've actually answered it quite a bit, was what are some keys to setting in good habits, right? How do you start setting in good habits? So, and I think we've addressed a lot of that with
it takes time.
Measurements, actually giving yourself something to measure, giving achievable and realistic goals. Don't say, oh, I want to become a millionaire. On New Year's Eve saying, I'm going to become a millionaire by 2018. It's not going to happen. You're going to be SOL, right?
I mean, it could happen.
Yeah, but the likelihood is so small.
Yeah. So to touch on that just real quick before we get to this other one. So if I say I want to be a millionaire by the time 2018 hits, okay, that in and of itself, if you don't break that down in any way, you're never going to hit that goal.
Right.
You will never hit that. But if you take that, I want to be a millionaire by the time 2018 hits, and then you break that down into manageable increments, you give yourself timelines, you give yourself a reasonable goal to hit every week or every day, that could happen.
It could.
You just have to learn how to manage your time and break things down into manageable, obtainable goals.
And let's hit the bigger thing there. You're kind of dancing around the white elephant in the room. It's just about self-discipline. If you're going to put a goal like that, then be man enough to hold yourself to it. If you're going to say I want to be a millionaire, or it's 2017, politically correct. whatever your gender is, be that gender enough to I don't care what it is, you know? I don't care. I'm a simple guy. I'm a male, you know, but for me it's be man enough to hold to your word. If you're going to make a commitment to anyone else, especially, but even more so to yourself, be honest with yourself enough to see it through. Don't, you know, so our friend Doug Booman, you know, Doug Booman, he's a regional vice president for a company we work with, we're associates with, and 6-figure earner, phenomenal guy, really good man. He gave the analogy the other night, I know you were there, he said, imagine being a football player, you know, being a professional football player. You don't want to be the kind of football player that gets your nose bloodied a couple times and then quits. Yeah. You know, you want to be, you know, of course not. You don't want to be that guy. If your nose gets bloody, that's fine. It's expected. You're going to encounter some difficulties. And I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit trail here, but I preach a lot on adversity and the importance of adversity. I think everyone, I know you sure as hell have, encountered hard times in your life. And I think we both have. Those hard times to me are what defines you more than the good times. You and I were talking about, oh, thank you, sir. See, this is why he's a friend. He knows when I'm thirsty. Oh, man. Thank you.
Look at the bubbles.
You and I were talking just tonight over dinner. We were talking about Facebook and how we both live. We wish we could live the lives that we portrayed on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
How you scroll through people's Facebooks and it's like the highlight reels of their life. Well, the truth of the matter is, the thing that molded them into who those people are, so you see these people that are just awesome on Facebook, it's not the case. The thing that molded them into who they actually are is the context. It's what happened in between. The stuff you don't see, that's what molded them. You're going to get your nose bloody. Keep pushing. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to make sure we hit all his questions because he has some good ones. So the next question he threw at us, and I love this, perfect question. He said, working versus networking. Which one is more important? And what should the ratio be between the two? And I want to get your take on that first.
Okay, so my personal take is I feel like it should be about half and half. Because you can do a phenomenal job, but if you don't know anybody to give that work to, it's not going to benefit you in any way. And at that point, you're relying on your customers' word of mouth to spread your business.
Right.
So I think that the harder you work, the more people will realize that you're about what you're doing.
Right.
Okay, so you're I don't know how else to put it except you're about that life.
Yeah.
So, right?
I'm about that life, girl.
Yeah. So, I feel like it's about half and half, that you put in the time and the effort, and then you have to figure out who you're trying to sell that product to or who you're trying to spread that work to. Yeah. Because if you are the best tree trimmer on the face of the planet, but you don't know anybody with palm trees, it doesn't matter that you're the best tree trimmer on the face of the planet because you don't have any work.
I completely agree with you.
So networking is how you grow your business, how you create more work for yourself in order to continue to network and continue to grow as a whole as a business.
I think what's funny is I think you and I have such similar beliefs on this, yet they're slightly different. I agree with a lot of what you just said, but at the same time, I'm a big advocate. It's the wine, man. It's too much wine.
He's slurring his words.
I'm a big advocate on it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think that anything in business is 10% how good you actually are or how good you think you are, and 90% who knows that you're that good. Okay. I think so. To put it in perspective, I think YouTube is obviously a really big thing for this generation. You know, I think that's become one of the biggest points of networking nowadays is YouTube. And I think you see these people on YouTube like Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and Ty Lopez and these people who have made it really, really good on social networking, right? And I think we all get this seed in our minds that we want to be those people, okay? Which is fine. I think we all come up with these always, like I said, the romantic narratives in our minds of who we want to be. But what's wrong is that people forget, they're focused so much on who they want to be, they forget who they really are, right? And you have to have that self-awareness and that humility to say that I'm not there yet. You know, I'm not a millionaire yet. I don't know what I'm doing yet. You have to have the teachability to obtain new information. Exactly. And so because of that, you can work all day long. And yeah, I completely agree. I think you need to bust your ass for the first, 20 years that you're working and really put that work in, build your brand. You can't just go out there and say, hey, world, look at me. I'm a millionaire. Follow me and do what I say.
Yeah.
That's not going to get you anywhere unless you have substance to back you up. But at the same time, you're not going to get anywhere unless you know people. Right. So I think you and I have very similar views on that, but also slight differentiation between the two.
And I feel like touching on real quick on what you were saying about like idols, or not necessarily idols, but like people that you strive to be like.
Role models.
Yeah. Okay, so I've talked to you about this a couple times. I feel like my measure of success would be to be at that level of some of these guys on Facebook, some of these entrepreneurs that you see,
which would be really cool.
Yeah, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
And to me, my measure of success isn't necessarily how much I have, but how much I'm able to give and still live comfortably.
Yeah.
Because I've always, and anybody that knows me, I'm always, anytime somebody needs something, if I can help you, I will do my damnedest to do it to the fullest extent that I possibly can.
And that's why you and I get along so well, because you and I are two in the same person. And, so you, for example, you were telling me you like a lot of Ty Lopez's stuff.
Yeah.
And Ty Lopez, he's a really alluring guy. I'm sure most of you know who he is, but if you don't, he's the guy, if you watch like any YouTube video on the ad beforehand, he's the one holding the phone up.
Showing
like
you
10 Lamborghinis
showing
behind
you
him.
these amazing cars in this monster
If you want to make
garage.
6 months within a month, let me know. That guy, And don't get me wrong, the guy's earned his fame. He's earned that brand.
And he's really intelligent.
He's extremely intelligent.
This guy reads a book a day.
Yeah.
A book a day. He's always growing his intellect. He's always growing his knowledge base. And he's always looking for the next thing to learn. And that's something that I've tried to take from that. And even if it's not his business practice or the way that he's going about everything, I think that's a really good thing to do, is always, like you were talking about, or the entrepreneur mentality of always looking for the next thing, always setting the next goal.
You're hustling. I think that word's overused a lot nowadays, but you're hustling. That's what you're doing. You're going out there and you're getting after it. And, and Matt, I think that's a very healthy way, though, of pursuing a role model. I think that's a healthy way of looking at somebody and saying, what is he? I'm the same way. When I think about success, I think about somebody who's already achieved it. I think about somebody who's already there, and I look at what they did to make it. Okay, I look at their patterns. And I do that. I'll pick 10 people. I pick my top 10 of people who have made it where I want to be. I look at all their patterns, and I find the similarities. I highlight it. And that's what I try to practice. And I think you're doing the same thing, and that's great. But I think there's a big 80% majority of people who say, I'm just going to go out, I'm going to rent a Lamborghini from a dealership, drive around in it for a day, take a video, and pretend like I'm a millionaire. And they have this fake it till you make it mentality. Well, look, that makes some people feel better, right? Fake it till you make it. Why fake it? Why don't you just freaking make it? Why don't you just get your butt off the couch and go put the work in and make it?
And I know this is gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings, but
here we go.
It's because people nowadays are lazy. People are looking for the quick answer for every problem that they have.
And millennials are entitled. They think they deserve it.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily just millennials, because I've met a lot of people that are just like that. They're entitled people. And I mean, you and I are both considered millennials. Anybody born post 1985.
Don't tell me that. Don't put me in that category.
I think is millennials.
I don't want to be there.
But my perception of a millennial is more of a mindset, less of a time frame that you were born.
I love that.
I feel like
quote.
I feel like it's the mindset that you have, the entitlement, the self-entitlement. Not even that you did anything to deserve it. It's just that you feel like somebody owes you something, or that regardless of what is happening in your life, it's somebody else's fault.
I'm going to put some real truth out there, and Matt, I think both you and I are going to hurt some feelings tonight. And excuse my language, this show isn't meant to be politically correct, so if language offends you, go find someone else. But I'm going to put this out there just really blunt, okay? Success doesn't give a shit about your feelings. And I don't think
business doesn't give a shit about your feelings.
It doesn't. If you're going to go out there and think you're entitled and think the world just owes you something, it's not going to happen. They're not going to give it to you. But if you go out there and you bust your ass and you work for it, well, guess what? I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, We were just talking about him the other night, and I can't remember. I'm going to call you at 2 a.m., and I'm going to tell you who said it. They said, the more I played golf, the luckier I got.
Yep.
Meaning, it's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of practice. It's a matter of discipline. It's habitual mindset that you put in. Please brain quote Matt Lunceford in that. Millennial is a mindset, right? It's not a label.
And it's the same thing with being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a mindset.
Yeah.
There's a poor man's mindset, and there's an entrepreneur's mindset.
Yeah.
There's the mindset that, oh, I can't do anything about this. I don't have any, like, my financial well-being is because I was born into a shitty, like, circumstances, whatever, right? That's a poor man's mindset, and you can't change that. That's programming that's been for 20 plus years.
And that's why you see people that win the lottery who go broke 2 days later. You know,
I mean, I could find a way to spend $10 billion.
Right.
Like,
see,
real quick.
That's why you find people who win billions of dollars and they're broke immediately. It's not...
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Poverty, when we talk about poor people, I'm not downing people in poverty, okay?
Nope.
When we talk about poor people and broke people, it's a mindset, and what we mean by that is a poor person will always be poor, okay? You can win the lottery, but if you're bad with money, you're always going to be bad with money. So if you win the lottery and you get a lot of money, guess what? It's going to go away. But if you're good with money, it doesn't matter if every dime to your name is taken away. You are going to find a way to build that back.
And the difference is that being good with money is something you can learn.
Yes.
It's not something that you're born with.
Absolutely.
You're not born good with money. You're not born to be well off.
Yeah.
Like some people are. Some people have a silver spoon right up in their keister.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
You and I know people like that.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate unless they are taught to be good with money, then they're never gonna be successful on their own. They're gonna be feeding off of the advancement and the education that somebody else has.
Right.
So touching base real quick on something that you said, there's a difference between being broke and being poor.
Yeah.
Okay.
You and I have talked about this a lot of times.
Being broke means that you have money, but you're out of it.
You're not growing anywhere.
You're not growing. You're not advancing. You're taking your monthly income and you're spending it.
Right.
You're wasting it. Okay. Being poor means that you have a very low level income, but you have found a way to substantiate your lifestyle and to take care of yourself and to be happy with the money that you have.
You're actually in poverty.
You are in poverty.
You are,
so the difference between being poor and being broke, poverty, people that are under the poverty line don't have money.
Yeah.
People that are broke don't know how to spend their money.
Right.
Don't know how to work with their money or make their money work for them.
And I can tell you this straight up, and I completely believe that you're going to back me on this. If you're poor, I feel for you, and I understand your willingness to do anything to get out of that situation. Poverty in America is obviously extremely bad. We have a lot of homeless community nowadays. I've worked with a lot of the homeless. I understand. If you're poor, I feel for you. If you're broke, it's on you.
Yep, that's your fault.
If you're broke, it is on you, because there's not a damn reason in this world that you can't take that money and do something with it. And that's my mindset. Real quick to wrap this up, the last question that Jeff Hurst had for us, and I love this because this is something I love talking about. He wanted us to tell a story about a time both of us tried something and it failed, where we failed in our careers and we learned from it. I'm going to let you start that one off.
Okay, without making this take all stinking night, because it could.
Yeah, we'll keep this one quick.
When I'm active duty military, I've been in for about 9.5, almost 10 years. My first deployment, I was really gung-ho. I was super motivated. Mm-hmm. I was everything and anything that I could do to progress, I was doing it. And my biggest failure was myself. Okay? My biggest failure in my career in the military so far, because that's really all I've done. I turned 18, I moved out of my parents' house, and I went straight to basic training and on into the military.
Wow.
So my biggest failure so far in life, with career-wise, is myself. Just me being so far up my own ass that I'm the best. I'm the greatest that there ever has been, ever was.
Yeah.
And I got to myself. And it destroyed me. So what ended up happening is I carried a light machine gun for the majority of my first deployment. And it was heavy. There was a lot of bullets. It was just the equipment necessary to maneuver this weapon system was just ridiculously.
Crazy.
It was heavy. It was uncomfortable. And I got to a point where I was picked over anybody else to go on special missions. Anytime they would need someone with that weapon system, they picked me.
That's a good thing and a bad thing.
It was it was a really good thing, but like you're saying, it was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a bad thing because it fed my ego, and I was so young and naive and stuck up that I let it feed my ego. So I got to a point where I said to myself, like, I'm the best 249 machine gunner that there ever has been, that there ever was. And
were you?
No, I wasn't. There was a lot of things that I still needed to learn. There's a lot of times that I missed my target. There's a lot of times that I failed in.
Hold on, real quick. You're a sergeant, right?
Yes.
So for all these new privates coming in, I just want you guys. I'm going to add you on Facebook. I want you to hear firsthand. A sergeant said he's not the best, so no matter what he says,
shut up.
Just take that to your mind.
Yeah. Okay, so it got to a point where I finally moved from my machine gunner position to a team leader spot.
Yeah.
So I had a lighter weapon. I was in charge of people.
Right.
And I didn't have to tote around 60 plus pounds of gear.
Right. Which is a good thing.
Yeah, to accompany my weapon system. So the guy that my machine gun got handed off to, he couldn't hack it. He couldn't do it. It was just too heavy. It was too rigorous for him. And so they gave it back to me. And me being I'm the greatest person on the face of the planet mentality, that made me really angry.
Right.
Because I was like, well, I've done this for X amount of months, and I've excelled past that position, and now they're giving it back to me. So I got really cocky, I got really angry, and I ended up getting into a situation where my platoon sergeant had to pull me aside and say, look, dude, you're not the greatest. Your shit does stink.
That come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he took me out, and he just told me, he's like, look, you need to pull your head out of your ass, and you need to stop acting like a dickhead.
Yeah.
Because, like, when we need you, we need you.
Right.
And the sad truth of it is the dependable soldier gets screwed over.
Yeah.
Because they get the most work, they get the worst hours, they get the most responsibility.
Because they know the job is going to get done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, not realizing that was a praise on their part, I got really upset, and I got into kind of a dirtbag mode for a while. So that's, so far in my career, that's my biggest failure, is just getting inside of my own head and thinking that I was better than I really was.
Man, it's funny you say that, because believe it or not, like, when I look back, my biggest failure, right along the same lines, I was I was in high school, and I was being an idiot. You know, I was turning that punk teenager. We all go through that phase, and my parent. Oh my gosh, Matt Lunceford, ladies and gents, he's the best. He really is the best.
I just want to hear you slur some more words.
It's because of the middle school. No, so I was in high school and turned into a punk teenager, and my parents were genuinely trying to get me on the right track. I grew up in a house where we weren't the wealthiest, and that was fine. But my parents worked their butts off to make ends meet, and I wish I would have seen that at the time, but I didn't.
Yeah.
What I saw was, why are these other kids getting to drive new cars to school and I'm not? Why are these other kids getting to do anything they want and my parents are telling me I'm grounded? Why are these other kids getting to fail their classes and it's no big deal, but I get yelled at for a D, right? Like, I didn't understand what my parents were trying to do for me. And I know especially kids growing up hear it all the time now, like, listen to your parents. I heard it when I was a kid and I completely ignored it. I really wish I would have listened, because they really were setting me up for success. But where I messed up was that I completely went against what they wanted. I ran away from home, was hanging out with a bad crowd, made some bad choices, and really hurt my reputation and my life a lot. But in that, I learned a lot about myself, and it caused me to kind of grow up real quick. Those choices led me to joining the Army, which anyone that knew me growing up will tell you that's not something I ever had in mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
as a kid, I never said I wanted to be a soldier. But it happened. You know, one thing led to another. I made some bad choices. I knocked on the military's door. They took me in. Looking back, would I have done it differently? There's a big part of me that wants to say yes because I don't enjoy my career in the military, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the smaller part of me, which I'm going to listen to more, says no. Because if I had to do it over again, I would do it exactly the same way. Because I learned exactly what I needed to learn through the military. I learned that kind of like you said, I wasn't on top of the world. I didn't know it all. It was a big lesson in humility for me to listen to other people. Joining the military, I met people like you. And for those of you that don't know, he was actually my superior when I first came in.
And I hated you.
You did hate me. You hated me for a really long time.
I really did.
He really, really hated me. And now we're buds. You know, it just goes to show how allegiances shift, you know. But as somebody who was my superior, you know, beforehand, you know that this isn't something I wanted. And I look at it now, and I'm thankful for this experience because I've met people like you who have had it a lot worse than I have. Guys, he's finishing the bottle, by the way. He doesn't play any games. You came to play.
That's it.
You've had it a lot worse than I have in the Army. You know, he's deployed 3 times to combat. He's seen things that I couldn't even imagine. And I think joining the Army was a big wake-up call for me because it showed me that as bad as I thought my life was, there were people that had it a million times worse. A good friend of mine once told me, and I want to put this out to every single person that's watching this. A good friend of mine told me that things only suck or become enjoyable, right? Things only suck or become enjoyable based off of what you compare them to. So if you think that, you know, your life is great because of other things, your life sucks because of other things, you just need to compare it to something else. So things only suck or become enjoyable based off what you compare it to.
True.
So I thought my life sucked until I joined the Army, and I saw some of these guys who have actually seen real combat, and I thought, man, I don't know shit.
So
I haven't seen anything.
Real quick. Another just genius quote. This actually comes from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to always tell me, it can always get worse. It can always get worse. And that's what got me through some of the worst times that I've ever experienced. I'd be sitting there, and I'd be getting shot at, and I'd be like, well, it can always get worse. It could be raining.
Yeah.
And then guess what? It started raining.
And on this note...
And then I'd say to myself, well, it can always get worse. It could be snowing. And there's always something worse than the environment that you're actually
always progress.
If you're still living, you're still breathing, you still have the ability to change your environment. You still have the ability to do something, to progress yourself, to change what's happening to you as a person. Or maybe not even to change what's happening, but to change the way that you deal with it, to change the way that you adapt and overcome that obstacle, because you realize that it's not the end-all, be-all.
Yeah. And on that note, I think that's a great note for us to leave off here. So, first of all, before I get into this, Jeff Hurst, thank you so much for these questions. We were able to have some good conversation. I hope this answered your questions that you had. You know, let us know if you have any more. You're a great guy. You're really intelligent. You know, send us some more stuff. But on that note, what I want to leave these people with is this. I used to think my life was terrible. And I think a lot of people find themselves in this mindset where they're struggling financially, or they just had somebody pass, or they're going through a divorce or something of that nature. My advice to you is this. Just like he said, there's always somebody that has it worse, okay? I thought my life was bad until I realized that I'm getting 3 square meals a day and a roof over my head, and I have running water. You know, I look at people in these third world countries. Some of them don't have limbs. Some of them don't get fed. You know, some of them don't have a place to sleep at night. Don't complain about your problems, okay? The thing I'm going to leave you with is that gratitude is the difference maker between successful people and unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people are unsuccessful because they don't know how to be thankful for what they've earned. When you start to be freaking thankful for what you've actually earned and what you have in your life is when everything changes, because you start to be more happy about what you have and less focused on what you wish you had. So that's what I want to leave you with. Like I said, this is episode 1 of a new series we're starting,
Yep.
so we're going to drink some wine. We're going to answer your questions. And the comments below, guys, please leave more questions that you want us to answer later
course.
on. And anything else, if you have a fun fact for the day or something,
Yep.
a joke you want to tell us, leave it in there too. It'll make us laugh. But
Don't forget to like, subscribe,
yeah,
and leave us some comments. Let us know what you guys thought.
Yeah.
But we're definitely not done with this. I got a lot more wine to drink.
so much more wine.
Yeah, we got a lot more topics to cover. And if you guys are interested in hearing what we have to say, just keep it going. Tell your friends, tell your family. Let us know what you think we could do different, maybe, and just keep it going.
And I do know this video was long, but that's because it's episode 1, so we had to make it a special occasion. But yeah, guys, until next time, I'll leave my links and his links for our personal social media down below,
Yep.
so you can go ahead and follow us. And other than that, take care. Cheers, and we will see you for the next episode. Bye, guys.